how to create anything. And by anything, that is no exaggeration. You want to launch a course, you want $1 million, you want to write a book. Let's talk about the key. This is a key to creating literally anything. Let's get into it. Okay, we have a lot to cover. So take a breath, chill. We're going to get into it. It's like if you're sitting around a table and there's 10 people, everyone has an idea about how something could be better, how they would improve something. They would create an app, they would launch a course, they would become a chef, they would be an artist, write a book. There's literally no shortage of ideas in the world. But the reality and the truth is, how many of those ideas will actually ever see the light of day, will ever be created? The truth is, it's 1%. 99% of those ideas will stay ideas, okay? So, what is the difference between the 1% and the 99%? And how do we become the 1%? Now, the 1% have something, and we're going to bust a bit of a spiritual myth here, but the 1% have, I would say, a high frequency. Okay, now hang on. Frequency is not as most people in the spiritual community would define it. So let's get into that. 1% have a high frequency. What does it mean to have a high frequency? Most people will tell you that it's about having a high vibration, staying positive, thinking positive, being high vibe, and feeling good all the time. Okay? Feeling good all the time. The problem with this definition about high frequency is that it quite literally goes against the laws of nature. And try go against the law of nature. It will destroy you. High frequency. There is a hermetic law called the law of rhythm, one of the principles of how the universe operates. You can see this operating in nature all the time. Is that things go up and things go down. This is how energy moves, and this is how energy oscillates in the universe. Goes up, goes down. High tide, low tide. High season, low season. High vibe, feeling low. Happiness, sad. Energy oscillates like this. It's going to go up and it's going to go down. So to say that you would only ever feel good here, and then when you do invariably feel a different way, you're going to make this bad, and you're going to make yourself feel bad for feeling bad, and that's going to create a self-perpetuating loop. And so you're going to completely knock off the effect that you are trying to create by your definition of what you believe is high frequency. Now, high frequency operating in a world where things are going to go up and down means to be able to achieve a high level of awareness. And that means a higher state of consciousness. Consciousness is your ability to see more, your ability to see the bigger picture, to zoom out and not be thrown and swayed around by the universe, but your ability to rise above duality, conflict, and see the bigger picture. As the Hermetic said, see that all truths have two half-truths, or are made up of many half-truths. Now, this is why in the Bible, you will always hear the story about somebody going up a mountain, like Moses went up the mountain, to communicate with God, because it means we rise above the illusion. The illusion is the idea that most people, well, everyone, sees reality through their limited perspective. What we as humans can see is 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum. We are only seeing 0.0035% of reality. So we are not seeing the full picture by any means. We can see more by raising our level of consciousness, by raising our level of awareness, by reaching a state of oneness. And when we're able to do that and rise above what we see in front of us, we're able to achieve balance by being in a midpoint, reaching a midpoint, being able to see things from a neutral point of view, meaning we are not easily swayed by reality. We rise above the illusion, reality, knowing that we're only seeing this percentage of it. So we're able to see things from a new perspective, a new lens, a new vantage point. That's what I mean when I say the 1% have high frequency. That is why they're able to create. Why and how does that relate to whatever you're creating? Okay, so most people get really excited about their ideas in phase 1 of their idea. Super passionate, they can get the vision board out, journaling about it, telling everybody about their idea. That's the fun part, right? That's the cool part, like dreaming big. Cool. But then, when they start, let's say, we'll call this 95% of people, start the vision board, get excited, start planning, they inevitably hit what is known as the wall of resistance. Steve Pressman speaks about this in his book, War on Art. War on Art. Wall of resistance. What is the wall of resistance made up of? It is made up of your greatest fears. It is made up of your judgments about yourself. It is made up of your judgments about how the world works, the story that you tell yourself. It is made up of your doubts. What if it fails? What if I'm not meant to do this? And anytime something goes wrong and you come across a challenge, an obstacle, you think it's a sign. It's a sign from God. It's a sign from the universe. Clearly, this is too hard. You are not meant to do this. This is a sign that it's not working out. You think maybe am I cursed? Why can't I get this thing done? I asked for it to be easy, or I asked to create this thing, and now all I'm getting is obstacles, challenges, my greatest fears coming up against me. This mountain is too big. I'm too in it. And I'm thinking, why is this happening to me? Something is wrong with me. That is what most people think. So they will hit this point inevitably in their journey and they will make a U-turn and say, okay, no, this wasn't meant for me. We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll do something else. We'll stay in the 9 to 5. We'll never see this creation. We'll never even try to bring this creation to life. Okay? Then we've got the second group of people. They will get excited. Vision board. They will hit the wall of resistance. And they will say, okay, well, maybe I'm meant to just make something smaller. I'll just glide by making something easier, smaller, less than. And they might create something. Let's say that's 4%. What do the 1% do? The 1%, okay, we're getting low on the board. The 1% get excited, and then they know that this is coming. They understand the laws of the universe, which we're going to get into. They know that this is coming. So when they get here, they're prepared. They know it's not a sign from the universe that's trying to derail them. They see this problem as a portal. They see this problem as an opportunity to rise above it and move through it by facing their greatest fears, facing their judgments, facing their doubts. And instead of seeing this problem as a reason why they shouldn't do it, and why is this happening to me, victim mentality, they see this problem as happening for them. They recognize that this is here to strengthen them. This is here to make them wiser. This is here to transform them into the person who they are meant to become, so that they can hold the thing that they are trying to create. So they have a completely different perspective when looking at these problems. They actually see this as the fastest way to collapse time, to everything that they want is on the other side of this. So they will go through it. Okay. Now you're probably thinking, cool, Haley, that's easier said than done. How do we do that? Okay. We need to understand how the universe works, because this universe has an algorithm. Okay, you can write that down in the comments. The universe has an algorithm. It has rules. These rules weren't taught in schools. These rules were taught in secret esoteric schools that were extremely hard to get into. You had to sacrifice many of your years or all of your money or your family or everything to get into an esoteric school that would teach you these universal laws. But luckily today, we have the internet. And we have all of this information at our fingertips. But with this spiritual information, there's so much of it, and a lot of it can feel like out of our grasp. So how do we actually bring this into something that we can use practically when we want to create something? One of the first laws of the universe to understand is the law of 3. The law of 3 underlies every creation, big and small, grand and simple. As above, so below, law of 3 can be found. And this is what Tesla meant when he said, once you understand the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, you will have the key to the universe. Okay, the key to the universe. Why? Because you have the key to create anything. And if God is a creator and you are made in the image of God, you are here to create. Anytime you feel stuck, it's because you aren't creating. Okay, you are here to create. Literally what you were made for. Now, law of 3. Here is always going to be 9. Here is always going to be 3. And here is always going to be 6. 9. Okay, let's start with 3 and 6. 3 and 6. On a lower level of consciousness, a lower level of being, lower state of awareness, we are living in a state of duality. This is where all religion lives. This is where level 1 spiritual teachings live. This is where there's a good and there's a bad. There's a God versus a devil. First of all, how can there be a God versus a devil? The God would have created the devil. So that, first of all, is just impossible. But in duality, you think that there's a good versus an evil. They are wrong. The world would be a better place if everybody just thought like me. This is the lowest level of consciousness. This is where we live in separation and duality. Now, if you take two forces, such as an active force, which is always here 0.6, and a passive force, you have I will create, you will not create. Denying force, which is your fears. In Hinduism, this is Brahma. This is Shiva. No, you will not. Now, you can see this as the sperm, the egg, the sun, the moon, masculine, feminine. You can play this out on every level, from a seed to the stars in the universe, okay? There is these two forces. This is how Tesla created electricity, because he said, I have an electric charge, and then I have a filament that receives the charge and then generates electricity. But these two forces will be in conflict and destroy each other if they do not have a neutralizing principle, neutralizing force. If you ever bump into someone's car, or if you, like other day I was walking through the mall and I almost bumped into somebody. Now, if I bump into somebody, we bump into each other, both of us are going to look at each other and go, what were you doing? What were you thinking? It's your fault. I'm going to walk away thinking, oh my God, what an idiot. He's going to walk away thinking, oh God, she was looking at her phone, what an idiot. The truth is always the third force. I was a little bit wrong. I was a little bit right. He was a little bit wrong. He was a little bit right. Hermetics, always half-truths, okay? Neutralizing principle at the top is our third force. If you're ever going about your day and you want to step into and embody the third force, just make a triangle with your fingers and say, like, show me the third perspective. There's always a third perspective. Show me the third perspective. Otherwise, duality will cancel each other out. And this is very, low frequency. So the third force now is able to hold tension in perfect harmony and perfect balance. That is why a triangle is a sacred symbol of harmony and balance. Harmony and balance. Without this point here, and let's take Tesla. He had an electrical charge, he was putting it into a filament, but then it didn't know how to hold it. So he created the bulb. The bulb was now able to hold the electricity. Now you have the light bulb. If you have the sun and the moon constantly fighting with each other, someone's going to try to dominate each other, but you have the universe and they each take their turns. If you have the sperm and the egg, the neutralizing force is the womb of creation. If you have Brahma and Shiva in Hinduism, you have Vishnu, the holy reconciler. You can see this at every level, and you can use this to create anything. If you want to move from your old self and set your old ways, your old self passive, your old habits, you want to set them passive. You no longer want them to be the leading force in your life. You want your new self to lead the way. What is the neutralizing force? It's always going to be yourself coming back to your soul. If you want to change your body, your old body, your new body, what is going to be the neutralizing force? Love. You can't change your old body without love. Anytime, you can always come back to the third force, which is love. You can always find a neutralizing principle in anything. So that is our law of three. That is one of the first laws that you will see is contained within this symbol, this ancient symbol that you might recognize because it's become popular and it's become known in the Western world thanks to a guy called Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was like a wacky, super intelligent philosopher, mystic, saint who was born in Armenia, and he was obsessed with realizing, he was understanding like and learning psychology, but he knew that there had to be more to man than what psychology was teaching him. He knew that there was the effect of not just physical reality, but that we live on a plane, one physical reality, but where the cause and effect is actually happening on a mental and spiritual level. So he went around the world, and he went around to like a lot of the Eastern secret esoteric schools, and he studied across multiple different religions, multiple different disciplines at the highest level, like Gnosis. He was studying Tantra. He was studying at all the highest levels of all the different lineages. And he brought that back to the West, and he created something called the fourth way. And the fourth way it's a tool, it's knowledge for your greatest personal transformation that combines psychology together with universal laws and cosmology and how this planets work. Okay. All of that to say, he brought this symbol to the West. He learned it from the Sufis in Afghanistan. And this symbol contains these powerful principles. And once you can understand how to work with these principles, you will no longer be played by them. Because most people, 98% of people, are being played by this game. You now become the player, because you know how to use these rules and laws to rise above and actually complete the thing that you came here to create. So we covered law 3. The other law that this symbol contains is the beautiful law of one. Law of one, now, is represented by a circle. So I'm going to try my best to draw a circle that's not going to annoy me because it's going to be really uneven. There we go. Okay, not bad. It's looking good. Now, this is law of one. Wait, no. I'm going to run out of space. Equals unity, completion, wholeness. It also represents time and space. Now, most of the spiritual people will be like, time is an illusion. Time is an illusion on the 5th D plane. We operate on the 3D plane. So yes, when you go into a manifestation state, or you go into the 5D and you use your vision to collapse waves to create what you want to create, you can escape the law of time. But here, on the 3D plane, where you are trying to bring something to life and to create something, time and space exist for a reason. And we need to learn how to work with it rather than against it. or just to believe like it's an illusion, because it's not. It's very real. We have it, and we've created it here for a reason. So just imagine, and I heard this once, which was the idea that this Earth 3D plane is like a practice ground, because on the 5D, your thoughts will manifest instantly. So here we're like supposed to learn how to control our thoughts, because our thoughts are gonna manifest instantly. And can you just imagine that your thoughts, every thought you ever thought, manifested instantly? No, like thank God there's lag time between what you think and what you want to create, okay? So we're grateful here for time and space. Now, we've got our law of one, represented by this beautiful circle. And time, there's two types of time. These names come from Greek mythology, where we've got Chronos time, and thank God for Chronos time. That is basically, I will meet you for coffee at 1 p.m. And I know that you know what 1 p.m. is, so you will meet me for coffee at 1 p.m. That's why we have Chronos time. But this was the god. He's represented by this aged man that's just like devouring his children, because he's literally like so fearful and like devoured by time. So that's the Greek myth of Chronos. Then we've got Kairos time. Kairos is the beautiful moment of inspiration, or moments when you just know that something is right. Moments where you sit down to write a book and it takes you 2 hours, something that was taking you 2 weeks. Kairos are moments. So this is going to give us Kairos moments in your creation. How long it takes is dependent on every project. And when you are creating, you want to be creating using the law of three as it applies to time. The law of three applies to time in that we have active time, we have passive time, and we have neutral time in every part of our day. All of these together equal your flow state. So your flow state is not just when you are active and you are creating. Your flow state is also when you are learning, reading, watching a YouTube video, and most importantly, when you are in neutral time. Neutral time is when you have nothing going in and nothing going out. You could be doing something like washing your dishes or like unpacking the dishwasher, and during that time, suddenly your problems become clear, or like suddenly an idea drops in. You could be driving, taking a shower, and then just all the dots are suddenly connected. That only happens in neutral time. That's when you're literally like receiving things from the 5D. So we need neutral time. The second law that the symbol represents, and the beauty of a symbol is that a symbol is the highest form of any spiritual teaching, because it contains so much information within it, and it's hidden in plain sight for the masses and the public to see. Only when you truly understand its meaning, and they say that if you just contemplate some of these symbols, like the flower of life, in contemplation, you will be awakened. So this contains so much information, and I'm going to give you as much as I can and simplify it as much as I can to make it as practical for you to use in your daily life. Now, the law of three, we remember, is the beautiful triangle of creation. And again, I'm going to do my best to... All right, it's looking okay. It's looking okay. Now here, we've always got 0, 9. The deeper you dig into the universe, the more you'll see that maths, numbers are behind everything. Here we've always got 0.3. Here we've always got the active 0.6. Beautiful. Now comes the law of 7. Law of 7. Before we get into law of 7, relax, okay? Step by step. Before we get into law of 7, let's finish law of 3. Now, we said this was always the neutral force. we said this was always the passive force. And we said this was always the active force. Okay, cool. So the first step is for you to draw a beautiful circle, a triangle, and now decide what it is that you want to create. And once you've decided what it is you want to create with like crystal clear clarity on what it is, we're going to place each one in their respective place, okay? For example, launch a successful business. Which of these words is the desiring active force? Which of these words is the neutralizing force, the force that we will always come back to? And which of these will be transformed but never destroyed in the process? The passive force. Launch a successful business. So the easiest one is always to take the desiring active force, which is we want it to be successful. That is our desire. If you get these placements wrong, the circle doesn't work. The thing that will be transformed in the process will be the business. We will need to transform the business. We might set out with a certain idea about how the business is going to look, but that business might need to pivot, might need to realign and look a little bit different in order to be our desire successful. And our neutralizing force is always going to be that we are going to launch this business and then we are going to relaunch. We're always going to come back once we've completed one cycle. That is our neutralizing force. Beautiful? Okay. So you've got what you want to create. You want to launch a successful business. Now, beautiful law of 7. Law of 7. Why 7? 7 days of creation. 7 is the process of creation and it doesn't follow linear, like it doesn't follow straight lines. The process of creation never follows straight lines. So this is the law of 7. It is also known as the law of octaves, and octaves means 8. That's only because we come back here again. So that is counted again. That's why it's known as the law of octaves. But it's using the principle of the law of 7. Okay? Now listen, I didn't do maths. Like I didn't do maths. I'm like not a maths person. Okay. So we're talking about numbers a lot, but I promise you just stick with it. And once you really start to understand this, you will see how you can use this to create anything. Now, this is our law of 1, which is our whole. So we're going to take our whole and we're going to divide it by our law of 7. Because we've got 7 steps in the process of creation. Do this on a calculator. It is going to give us 0.1428 5, 7, 1. It's going to repeat twice. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each one of these represents a specific objective step that you will need to take in order to complete the creation of anything. Step number 1 is always intention. Anything that you want to create will be formed by your intention. If you guys watched Netflix, they've got a new movie called Nonnos. It's about a guy who was super passionate about bringing in the Italian grandmothers to cook in his restaurant. And his intention for the restaurant was, I want this restaurant to feel like a family. From the day one that he didn't know what it would look like. He didn't know if it would work. He didn't know anything. He just knew he wanted it to feel like a family. And even though he went through this process, by the end of it, when a food critic went there, their review was, this place feels like a family. That reflected his initial intention. Okay, that's how intention will really shape anything that you want to create. 2 is always going to be tools. always going to be the things that you need to create. 3 is always going to be our shock point. We'll get into that. 4 is always going to be limitations. 5 is always going to be prepare. 6 is now presenting it, or 7 is present, but now it's coming out to the customer. 8 is always going to be retain. How do we retain everything that we've gained through the process so that the second time we go around, it just gets stronger and stronger with every turn. And by law, the frequency will double by 2 the second time you use this principle. The thing with manifestation and creating things from magic, or creating things by accident, or suddenly just like having this $1 million success, is that it will naturally be destroyed because you can't recreate it, because it just happened. You don't know how to create it. But once you are using this principle and this symbol, you will always be able to create. You will always be able to recreate, and it'll only get stronger over and over again, because in magic, nothing is ever lost. Everything is always used again. We like use the ashes of anything that we've created. So, all right, we've got a lot going on here. So we've set our law of 7. Now the law of 7 allows us to travel forward in time. What do I mean by that? Going back to our numbers here, you set the intention to launch a successful business. Now, from here, we're going to go forward in time and say, I want to create a successful business. What are my limitations? Now I'm going to face reality. I'm going to get real. You know what? I'm really busy with my day job, so I only have the evening between 6 and 9 p.m. to create this business. Okay? Time limitation. Very real. I only have so much money in my savings to create this business. I have this much money. I don't really know enough about content creation, so that is a limitation. I'm not really good at writing, so writing's not my thing. So I need somebody to help me with that. What are your limitations in creating? Write them out. Based on your limitations, we're going to go to 2. What tools do I need? They're going to help me overcome my limitations. What are the tools that I need? Okay, I need to get a website designer. I need somebody who can do the copywriting. I need a tech platform. I need to learn about technology. I need to learn how my website works. Now we're going to go from 2 to 8, and we're going to say, okay, cool. So I've got my website set up. I've got my landing page. How do I keep people once they've bought from me once? How do I retain my customer? How do I keep them coming back? Oh, I need a second offer for them. Okay, I'm going to create a second offer. I need something else. Like, where can they go? How can I increase the customer lifetime value? Then we go from 8, we go to 5. How do I prepare for this? What do I need to commit to? That once I've committed, I cannot go back. Like, this is my commitment. Then I'm going to go to present, which is how do I present this? How do I surprise and delight my customer? And from there, we're always going to go back to intention. So now you can see that this never follows a straight line, but it allows us, going back to high frequency equals high awareness, high vantage point. This literally gives us a vantage point so that we know once we start the circle and we start going through here, we're ready and we're prepared for, we've done everything we can, and now we're ready and prepared for what is called shock number 1 and shock number 2. By law, this is going to be a shock point. This is like you saying you're going to write a book. You get the perfect place to write. You've got the laptop. You're ready to write. You sit down to write. Words aren't coming. And then you say, I'm not meant to be a writer. Coming up against the wall of resistance. This is where things feel hard. This is where let's give it some like benefit of the doubt, 98% of people will go on what is called a side octave, where you start saying, well, am I even meant to do this? Or you face your fears, you face the doubts, and you build enough momentum to overcome this point, because the point of a triangle will be a shock, this point, to keep moving forward. Now, this is like a marathon runner who's reached the last point of their creation, and you feel like giving up. You feel like it was all for nothing. You've put everything you can into the successful business, like this guy that wanted to create a restaurant and then nobody showed up after he had given everything into creating it. And he literally was at the point of completely throwing in, giving up. This is the beauty of this symbol. At this point, when you first start and you're super excited about the thing that you're creating and you're doing the vision boards, it feels easy. Planning is easy compared to actually being the person you need to be to bring this thing to life. This is what is known as white magic phase, because it's like light and it's easy and it's like so exciting. This is known as black magic. So when we know that we're going through the white phase and then we're going to hit the black magic by law, we're no longer thrown off by the chaos of it. And shit can go get weird around here. Okay? If you've been using one of these, you know, point 3 is where shit gets hard. Okay? Stuff comes out of nowhere in your life, and your reality is showing you one thing. And you need to hold alignment to your creation no matter what. No matter what. You keep moving through. You become transformed. This is also known in the hero's journey, where the ego becomes separated from the essence, because this is also usually a transformational, meaning you are no longer the same afterwards, and a humbling. This is a humbling experience. This is where you think you know everything and then boom, point 3. It's very humbling, but it will transform who you are. And anything you want to create, or you can use the word manifestation, anything you want to manifest is not about the actual event of manifesting. It is about who you become in the process. And when you understand that the universe is doing this for you, this is designed, here things feel easy. The universe steps in for the first 2 steps. Here the universe is preparing you, giving you transformation opportunity to see problems as a portal to your next level. And this is where the divine reaches in and shows you the finish line. The divine support is always, the breakthrough is always happening right here. And then when you hit point 9, you go back to 0, neutral, and you go again. And if you don't like your results at point 9, you go again. You go again. And by law, this is going to double every time you go around the circle. Every time you go around once, it doubles in frequency. It starts to spiral and spiral and spiral. And if you understand sacred geometry, that is just going to create a force on its own. In business, they call it the flywheel effect. Elon Musk is probably applying it without even realizing it. And then we spoke about white magic, where things get easy. We spoke about black magic, where things get hard. Now, this phase is red magic. Most people don't know that there's a red magic. Red magic means sacrifice. It means surrender. It doesn't mean that we sit back and we're just like, okay, cool, let the chips land how they may. We keep moving forward. We keep taking action, active surrender. Keep doing what we need to be doing, presenting our offer. But whatever the result is, whatever the outcome is, we trust that God is putting the people in front of you that need to be in front of you. So if one person signs up for your offer, that one person, and you are meant to do that work together. If you were expecting 100 and only 1, you surrender to the result. You surrender to the expectation, to the outcome that you were gripping so hard. You accept it, you deliver your best, and you go again, and you go again. And the second time around, things just get better. Things get better and things get easier. But this is active surrender. But this phase is where most people start to panic. And if they don't get people signing up, then they start to discount, then they say 50% off, and they're doing these drastic moves, chaotic moves to try control the outcome. But if you know that you've done everything here, you can now actively surrender, let go, and let God. That is why this symbol is known as the face of God. It contains universal laws, it contains sacred geometry, it contains like so much beauty, so much divine wisdom. And this has been known, and I kept the name at the end on purpose because I didn't want anybody to get distracted. But this symbol is known as the Enneagram, which most people will know as a personality test. But that's not the original intention behind it. The original intention is the face of God is the fundamental force behind all creation. And the reason why Enneagram equals 9, Enneagram means 9, 9 is a cycle of completion. 9 is how many months it takes for a baby to be born. 9, if you take every single platonic solid or sacred geometry shape and you count all the angles within a sacred geometry shape, every single one always comes back to 9. 9 is a very sacred number. So that looks like a hot mess right now, but I hope you guys took notes. Leave your biggest takeaways in the comments and any questions that you have so we can do a follow-up video on this one.